regular Transportation Committee meeting Wednesday, February 24th, a little after 12, and this is our virtual meeting, WebEx Council Chamber. And we would entertain a motion to accept the minutes and the approval of the minutes.
So move, Mr. Chair. I move that we accept the motion.
Okay.
Second.
Been properly moved and second. Ready for the question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. And now we have an update from Mr. Director Frank Martin, the Executive Director of the Birmingham Jefferson County Transit Authority.
Good afternoon, members of the Transportation Committee, Chair Hort, Councilor Hill, Quinn. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. As you recall, we have been coming before the committee periodically to give you updates on what's going on with Max Transit. And we haven't been there in a while, and I thought I had mentioned that we were going to be conducting a comprehensive operational analysis, and I thought it would be appropriate for us to give you an update as to where we are in the process. And I have about 3 to 5 minutes on the front end of this, and then I'm going to turn it over to our consulting team that's been working on this project. And this is just an update to kind of give you a status of where we are. We have had in the past several days 2 meetings. We had one meeting with the city of Bessemer yesterday, as well as Centerport. And we will be going throughout the region, talking to all of our partners about what we're doing in regards to this very, very important project. So for starters, very, very quickly, and I'll turn it over to the team and then come back at the end for any Q&A that you might have. As we all know, the BJCTA was created back in 1972. The MAX tagline created in 82. The various funding sources that we have for the system, the Jefferson County sales tax distribution, the beer tax, the ad valorem property tax, and the revenues from the fare boxes. We have about 70 fixed route buses, about 40 paratransit vehicles, and we are operating 2 in Mountain Brook for the MAX Direct. Next slide, please. When I came in about 2 years ago, we had a clear directive from the board in terms of restoring the confidence in the system, as well as making sure that we have a fiscally sound and responsible organization from a financial perspective. We immediately hired a CFO, Glenn Dickerson, who most of you know by him being a local person. And Glenn and I came in and as a part of this administration to take a deep dive and do a number of things in terms of cleaning up the organization. This kind of just briefly talks about it, and we can, I think you already have a copy of these slides. This is like the past, the present, and the future. Want to focus on the future from the standpoint of positioning the BJCTA to be the mobility manager for the region. You all have heard me mention this before. You may get tired of hearing me say this, but I think it's critically important that as the BJCTA evolve in terms of providing transportation service in the Jefferson County region, that it is very, very important that BJCTA become the mobility manager so that all things related to mobility, first mile, last mile, Uber, Lyft, car share, bike share, scooters, microtransit, all that is under one hub, and that hub is BJCTA. Next slide, please. These are the major initiatives that we have going on that actually started in 2020, but now we're in 21, looking at 22. We all know about the BRT that the city is designing and building and turning it over to the BJCTA to maintain and operate. And it's a very, very collaborative process as we are partners, the City of Birmingham and BJCTA. And under the leadership of Ms. Charlotte Shaw, the project is really, really moving forward. And I think at the end of the day, we all will be very pleased with the ultimate outcome of that. Um, we need to have additional support services, so we have a team that's working exclusively with the transit organization in terms of the safety and security program, the ridership forecast, which is required by the FTA, and just overall assistance in what we might need in order to support the project. The COA, which is what we currently will be talking about in a few minutes, comprehensive operation analysis, taking a deep dive into the existing route structure, identifying ways that we can improve the system and the service. Additionally, we have the community and customer satisfaction surveys, as well as the strategic plan and the performance measures, KPIs, which the city has offered to provide the local share of about $10,000 to help support that particular initiative. We really, really appreciate that. Again, a collaboration between the city of Birmingham and BJCTA in terms of how we can partner to make things happen. Those three projects are very, very important. And after several months of the inability to get it through the board, we were finally able to get the board to approve that recently. We've had a kickoff meeting and we're moving very, very quickly to address those three areas. The human resources, taking a deep dive in our human resources department. There are many, many things that we found when we came in that need to be corrected. HR from top to bottom, we're totally revamping things. And we have a great group that's been working with us to help us in that regard. The operation maintenance facility, we were finally able to get Wendell Architecture on board. They'll be doing the reassessment of the operations and maintenance facility, site selection, preliminary design, and all the environmental work. That site on 8th Avenue and 31st Street, built in 1967, it is beyond its useful life, and we need to have a new facility. And now we're getting started on that project. Next slide, please. These are some additional projects that we have that are going on. NeoGov for our human resources area. Eco Lane for our fixed route. On-time performance has been something that with the current provider of Vail, that's been very, very problematic from day one on my arrival. And finally, we made a decision that we needed to replace that system. We're now beginning to implement phase one, and very, very quickly, we'll be able to have accurate on-time performance data, which is very, very important. The information that's coming out of that system, at least in my tenure, we've never been pleased with, but with the Eco Lane project that we have going, we feel very, very positive that we'll be able to make sure that we have data that is correct and accurate, which is what we need to be focusing on as we begin to restore the confidence in the system. We'll be having a new APC, automatic passenger counters. The ones that are in the vehicles now, again, are not functioning properly. Very, very critical, very, very important for our annual ridership counts that we have to send in to the FTA. Whenever you have these type of programs, there's a calibration process that you have to go through that you submit to the FTA annually, making sure that the system that is in place is doing it appropriately. And then we have some camera program, a number of security things we're doing there as well. As you know, we are a CNG bus fleet. We have accepted the delivery of 2 electric buses. And over time, that is something that we're looking at very, very closely in terms of moving towards electric vehicles. That seems to be the way the industry is going. BJCTA has been ahead of the curve and being very environmentally conscious in its move from diesel to CNG. So the evolution of moving to electric seems to be the trend, not only for the public transit industry, but also for the regular vehicle market as well. Next slide, please. And this just lays out over a 6-year time frame the specific projects that are going on and will be going on over time. Next slide. So this kind of is a transition from my very, very brief talk down passing on to the TMD consultants. Very, very critical as we identified the theme for the current budget year. Remodeling public transit landscape, laying a foundation for the future. Again, laying that foundation for the future. Yet the Birmingham Jefferson County area wants to have a viable public transit system. We need to make sure that the services that we're providing are convenient and accessible for everyone that wants to use it. This process that we're going through is laying that foundation. We have to change the way we've been looking at public transportation. It's not for those that have no other means. We need to open it up and begin to attract and retain riders in order to make the system work. And with that, I'm going to now pass it on to the TMD group. James and Russ Chisholm will be starting their presentation. So Russ, take it away.
Russ, I believe you're muted.
I'm unmuted right now.
We can hear you now, Russ.
Is that any better?
Yes.
It is, yes. Although I'd like to ask Kimberly, could you give me the presenter privileges once more? I believe the slideshow stopped.
Not a problem, sure.
Good afternoon, Chair Hoyt, members of the Transportation Committee. I'm Russ Chisholm with TMD. Let's start with the project goals for the COA. James, thanks. As Mr. Martin indicated, our first thing that we want to make sure that we do is to grow ridership and increase transit's role in the community in providing mobility. And to do that, we want to retain the current riders and those who are riding before the pandemic. We want to encourage current riders to ride more often. They may be just going to work or school, to class, and we want to encourage them by improving the system to use it for more trips for shopping, healthcare, recreation, a variety of things. And then lastly, we want to create a MAX system that will attract new riders to the network. And to do this, we have to offer our community partners like the City of Birmingham a stronger value proposition. We need to make sure that we're supporting your community plans and mobility needs. Where the city wants to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, we have to position MAX to support that. We need to improve economic opportunity and quality of life, and not just for individuals, but many times, particularly as you're trying to work to attract technology businesses to the region and the city, the availability of good public transportation matters nowadays. And then lastly, using the resources of the funds that you provide efficiently for the best financial advantage. You know, as Mr. Martin indicated, the world's changing. Public mobility is not just about fixed route buses. That's a critical part of it, but it's more than that. So we'll want to look at things like microtransit, which the city is already piloting, as first steps in creating more of a mobility management for the region, where from a customer standpoint, they don't have to choose, but they go to one place to be able to find information, select what they want to do, and then pay for it in terms of public mobility. Next. So who are the key markets? We've identified 6 general markets here in terms of a focus to make sure that the redesigned MAX is going to respond to. The first is commuters and essential workers. Commuters are still, to an extent, working from home. You know, we need to plan for them to begin returning. We need to make sure we're doing a good job for essential workers. Transit-dependent riders. There are some households that don't have vehicles. We need to ensure they have access to good transit, but also within households that do have vehicles. There's a lot of folks that may not have access to the vehicle for that trip. We need to be able to respond to those opportunities. Seniors, you know, nowadays seniors, you know, they want to age in place, you know, and many aren't ready for the daily trip, say, to the senior center, but they can't drive. So how do we provide access for seniors that are still at home to be able to do everything they need to do in the course of a week? Students, you know, junior high, senior high, university students, UAB is in a huge part of the city and a very important part of the public mobility arena. Youth, particularly children whose parent or parents are working. You know, what do they do after school? How do they get to school? And then lastly, shopping, social activities, entertainment, healthcare, being able to do all of those things. So as we do this, we're not just designing lines on a map or microtransit zones, but actually thinking through how all of that responds back to these key markets for people and customers. Next. Frequency. Frequency is probably the most important thing that we need to address. At the end of the day, it is the biggest determinant of whether people will choose to ride transit and continue to ride transit. If you look at the left side here, you'll see 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Those are the points where people using transit don't really think about when they travel. They just go out and catch the next trip. The important thing here is the 15-minute service is the level that the new Max Express BRT is going in at. We look at 30-minute service. 30 minutes covers shift times, school bell times. Basically, it allows you to kind of go about your life, but you have to do it, you know, when Max is running, but you can do it. As you look at 45 and 60 minutes, you're very constrained. You know, if you've got to go to school or work or a doctor's appointment or go shopping, 60-minute service does not work very well. So if you have any other option, you're not going to choose that. So if we look at where we are today with Max, those are the gold lines, the gold circles. We have one 20-minute service today. That's the Magic City Connector. We have a few 45-minute services. We have a fair number of 60s, but most of the service doesn't even run once an hour. So it's very hard to use. And if you imagine many of the trips people take involve transfers, it becomes very difficult to use the system. So focusing on frequency was an important part of what we looked at. Next. So why invest in transit? The mobility that comes from public transit is needed to meet community sustainability objectives, as we mentioned, for economic growth and quality of life. Next. Transit creates opportunities. It's a critical part of upward mobility. If you look at the #1 factor to getting out of poverty, it is mobility, access to good transit. So we paid a lot of attention to connecting people to jobs and education. Um, it also provides access to workers for local businesses as well as customers. Next. And lastly, Max provides mobility to those that don't have options, seniors, youth, and households with limited choices. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to James Gherkin to take us through where we are with the proposal. James.
Thanks, Russ. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having us. We'd like to take some time to speak to some of the more specifics of our project. As Russ was indicating, there's certain overarching values and goals as part of this study to reimagine the mass transit network. But we'd like to dive into some of the specifics. We analyzed the current MAX system and the potential for transit market around the Birmingham Jefferson County service area. And then we've looked toward developing some sketch concepts, new potential networks for the transit network. In terms of the existing system, as Russ spoke about with the frequency, an immediate thing that stands out with the system is that it does not currently operate very frequently. You have the single route, the Magic City Connector, operating every 20 minutes, with all other routes operating every 40 minutes. Additionally, most routes have multiple patterns and varying frequencies over the course of the day, which can confuse customers. In the transit industry, that's a term we use called the clock face frequencies. When every trip arrives at the same interval, if you have a 30-minute service, it comes at 26 and 56 after the hour, for example, at your stop. With many of the MAX routes, they may come, every 48 minutes on one trip, and the next bus arrives in 52 minutes, and the next one arrives in 47 minutes. So for the customer, that's hard to memorize the schedule and be prepared for a bus to arrive, especially when, it may come every hour, but not on the hour. Additionally, the network does not operate on Sundays, limiting weekend mobility for the public and customers. As part of our process in this project to develop a draft network that we're working to finalize with BJCTA staff and then present to stakeholders, the municipalities and the public, we developed two potential scenarios. One we're calling a COVID recovery scenario, a shorter term program that may require some investment for certain cities and sets the stage for longer term future investment in transit. But this works to make some of the most essential recommendations we see to bring the network up to speed while setting some of the longer term investments in the other scenario. This one is, planned for the shorter term as we hopefully come out of the pandemic in the coming months and year, and economic circumstances for cities and counties around the country continue to improve. The second scenario we're calling the blue sky scenario, and I'll talk about that on the next slide, is that sets the stage for a longer term investment portfolio. Under the COVID recovery scenario, all routes would operate every 60 minutes or better, with those clock-based frequencies arriving at the same 60-minute interval over the course of the day. All the routes will be simplified to have one pattern and similar service hours across all routes. So be that 15, 16, however many hours a day, from X in the AM to Y in the PM, every route would operate on those same hours to allow for a easy to understand and predictable schedule for customers. This new network would also improve connections with the future BRT route shown here on the map as a 15-minute service, ensuring customers can efficiently and conveniently transfer between the other MAX fixed route lines and the BRT. It would also formalize the microtransit pilots, the two that have been in operation in recent years, the Birmingham On-Demand Zone and the authority's MAX Transit Zone in Mountain Brook, making those permanent, as well as establishing several other new zones around the region, and also begin to identify locations and establish mobility hubs to support community placemaking and faster regional connections around the service area. As you can see in the map, transitioning to the next slide for the blue sky scenario, you have more of the routes operating more frequently. Under this scenario, most routes would operate every 30 minutes or better. And in addition to the BRT, you would also have the Magic City Connector operating every 15 minutes and operating further south into Homewood. Similar to the other scenario, routes would be simplified with similar service hours, good BRT connection, the addition of one more microtransit zone, and also those mobility hubs. And with improve frequency on some of the longer distance commuter lines, especially out to the southern cities. You would have areas identified as potential park and ride locations for customers to make trips into the city, into downtown or UAB, and avoid paying for parking. In addition, the Blue Sky scenario would recommend introduction of Sunday service, certainly requiring an additional investment, but creating a all day, all week, 7-day-a-week network for customers. As part of the overall recommendations, there are several key items beyond, lines on the map and parameters of the service we'd recommend. Several things we'd like to highlight are transit priority on frequent corridors. There's a sizable infrastructural investment in the BRT line, and as other routes receive more frequency, we'd recommend the authority pursue grants and work with the city of Birmingham to identify locations for transit priority on frequent corridors to help make service as efficient and effective as possible for customers and as best to operate for the authority. We'd also recommend locations for community mobility hubs. These would be opportunities for community placemaking where you could have enhanced amenities at bus stops for safety and security, as well as a pleasant wait experience, integration with the microtransit zones, connections there, as well as bike, scooter shares, other mobility options. And as I said, identify locations for community placemaking, pop-up events, vendors, musicians, so forth, a place where people can meet, gather, and also find mobility options. And also working with, specific to each location, but be they businesses, churches, other entities with parking, working with them to establish signage and branding around park and ride locations. As I mentioned, under the longer term investment scenario, you would have some of the longer distance commuter routes operating every 30 minutes, creating a more attractive option potentially for consumers who want an easier ride into downtown, avoid paying for parking, get some work done on the bus, so forth. As I mentioned before, also the formalization and expansion of the microtransit on demand program, working with the authority to ensure they efficiently operate services that we'd recommend. So technology to improve operations, ensure effective communication between operators, between each other, between dispatch, different buses, and making connections between these higher frequency fixed route services and microtransit as convenient as possible for the customer. And moving the authority, the transit industry in general, as well as the public in our lives, we're moving toward more technology, smartphones, the internet, payment information, all in our pockets. So ensuring that information on different mobility options as well as payment is all integrated for the customer. So it's a bit of an overview on the recommendations we're working to finalize in the coming weeks before we start to take these recommendations out to the BJCTA board, as well as stakeholders, the public, and finalize a network plan to hand off to the authority to begin implementation at an appropriate time. But at this time, we certainly welcome any questions, comments, feedback from all of you. Thank you.
So I would assume we don't have anybody from the public on this WebEx. So do any one of my colleagues have anything to ask or to express? Dr.
Let me just say that, again, this is an effort for us to come to you with updates as to what we're doing. We will be having a meeting tomorrow with the administration, and we'll take a little deeper dive into some of the specific recommendations, and we'll be asking them to give us insight in terms of the outlook for the budget coming up, and as well as we'll be looking at numbers at some point. The meetings that we have had so far this week have been at this high level. As we had a very, very good meeting with the City of Bessemer yesterday, and they've identified some growth areas that they would like for us to take a look at. So as we begin to look at, improving the service from the post-COVID era, going to Blue Sky over time, because we firmly believe that it's very important that we improve the frequencies between buses. That way, it is an attractive service to the community. And I know that the members of this committee have been very supportive of transit, microtransit as well, and you've had concerns over the years. And this is an attempt to move it forward and identify an effective strategy and program to make everyone proud of the system that we have here.
Okay. Dr. O'Quinn?
Sir, thank you. First question relates to in the plan, one of the things that's been talked about over the years is reconfiguring the bus lines to orient to the bus rapid transit line. Currently, we have a hub and spoke model where all of the bus lines intersect, or most of them intersect at the central station. And there's been some talk over the years about transitioning to a more distributed network where the routes connect through the BRT line. Is that something that's been considered? And then my second question is in relating to the different options that you presented, are there cost estimates that, projections would be accompanying those different models?
Thank you for those questions. I'd be happy to answer the first one. I may hand it to Mr. Martin for the second one. In terms of the hub and spoke orientation and the layout of the system, that's something we took a close look at and we'll be providing. We have materials that we'll be happy to share in terms of maps and specifics on our recommendations. There certainly bear some similarities. A lot of routes do maintain similarity to their current orientation. But we tried to, strip we analyzed the existing system and the market demographics, various data around the population and the circumstances of the local area, and we stripped things down, kind of built the system back up again. And given the kind of street orientation, the topography with your hills and ridges and street network, it does kind of maintain the similar hub and spoke network. And we found that generally the main corridors from the highways to the south, main avenues out east, the road to Bessemer, they saw the kind of the strongest performance in terms of the speeds, ridership, performance of the current system. So we try to maintain coverage on those routes. We looked for new crosstown connections, and there are some introduced, but where financially may not be effective to provide crosstown connections outside of the city centers, these microtransit options can bridge that gap, where it can create connectivity to businesses that locate off of key corridors or housing developments outside of the main areas. And we certainly, into the BRT, we definitely identified as many locations as possible to create connections, given the infrastructure being built, especially at the east and west terminals. For that, heavily position those as those community mobility hubs, especially at the east end with the east terminal at Woodlawn, intersecting several routes there, focusing that as a mobility hub for on-demand service to provide a connection to the airport under the Blue Sky scenario. Folks in the northeast part of the city of Birmingham and city of Centerpoint would have 30-minute service to that hub. You grab on-demand transit straight to the airport or connect through other routes that go downtown or to the BRT. At the west end as well, one route that doesn't even go downtown and connects solely with the BRT. So definitely trying to leverage what's going to be coming and think toward the future.
In terms of the second question, sir, we will have cost estimates at some point. Right now, we're trying just giving an update and trying to get a feel for what it might be. If you could, James, go back to the slide where it shows the 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 60. So we look at this particular slide, why the frequency matters. This really tells a story. The bulk of our service now is running hourly. if you were depending upon transit to get to wherever you wanted to go, school, work, medical appointments, what have you, and you just happen to have missed that bus, another bus is coming in an hour, you can't really wait an hour. You're going to find other means of transportation. In cities where they have more frequent service, you're not as worried if you miss the bus in a sense for whatever reason. There may be another bus coming within 10, 15 to 20 minutes. And you may not mind waiting that long. But an hour, you will mind waiting. And you're going to find other means to travel. So as we begin to refine the system based on the initial feedback, we will be coming with specific recommendations and costs associating with multiple levels of service. And this is something that we phase in over time. We know you can't do it all at one time, but at some point in time, because we don't know how long COVID is going to be with us. And right now, from a process of the impact of COVID and what that might look like, we're still operating at a 50% capacity
Ms. Martin,
on our vehicles.
would you all silence your phone, please? Thank you.
So in terms of the COVID and the impact, we have 50% capacity on the vehicles, which is very, very critical and important as we begin to look at the recovery at some future point. But we'll be coming back for specific cost and also in terms of what it might look like over time. Because the BRT program within itself will create a situation where there will be increased financial participation necessary from the city, even to maintain and operate the BRT.
Thank you, sir.
Is that all your questions? Okay. Councilor Hilliard? Is he still on?
His name is still registering.
Maybe he doesn't have any questions. Director Martin, let me ask you, I'm getting feedback. Hold on 1 minute.
I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, so Director Martin, I'm just trying to see what could we expect from transit with the ensuing World Games, and what is that going to look like?
And we've had a recent meeting, and we're looking forward to ongoing meetings with them. We just made appointments to a disability transportation committee as well, a part of the World Games. The BRT and the Magic City Connector will be playing a very, very critical role in moving visitors throughout the region. So from that perspective, you have the 15-minute headways on the BRT, and under the overall program that we're proposing, you will have 15-minute headways on the Magic Connector, and then we'll be operating probably beyond its southern point now in downtown Homewood to maybe linking up with Brookwood Village. So maybe a Brookwood Village all the way to the BJCC area, running every 15 minutes. So that kind of widens and expands that network. We've yet to see what the World Games will be asking us to provide over and above that. And this is where the frequencies in the service during that World Games time of July of 2022 becomes critically important as well.
So,
And
yeah, I was going to say, so have you all not been a part of any of the planning of that? Is somebody dedicated every, because I think they meet every week or every month or twice a month or something.
there have not been any meetings of that group for a while. They just started meetings up about a month ago. But we are part of those meetings, working with them. But for right now, again, the Magic City Connector and the BRT would be two critical points there. We have a listing of venues throughout the area, but we are a part of the committee and an active participant on the committee.
Okay. So, talk to me about the future in terms of, and this is my train of thought. We got folk who work at Mercedes-Benz, they work at Honda, but not everybody who work there drive. And there are any number of folk who are going to these places, even Amazon, then trying to see, would that be something we would try to capitalize on, to meet with those various, manufacturers and to talk about providing transportation to those areas where they got mass people working there? I mean, if those are opportunities,
I would say in the grand scheme of things, yes, sir. Amazon specifically, we did work very closely with the city of Bessemer and Amazon to provide bus service to their facility.
okay.
We got their shift times, their projected number of employees in advance of them opening their facility. And it was a very collaborative effort between the city of Bessemer, Amazon, and BJCTA to make sure that we can serve those areas. Anything outside the immediate service area of Birmingham, Jefferson County, over time, I would think, yes, we could reach out to some of those areas. And again, being that mobility manager for the region, we need to be able to have conversations to help corporate America, the companies that are moving into the area. Because one of the first things they always talk about when any company comes to the area, they're looking for transportation, the accessibility of public transportation. They're looking at schools and looking at housing. So we want to make sure that we're at the table talking to these individuals in terms of economic development opportunities, but more importantly, meeting with them and setting up that dialogue to have those conversations. We are working very collaboratively with UAB. We've had a series of meetings in the last several months. And this is a relationship that we've been trying to get ever since I've been here. It took me about a year, a little over a year, for them to say, yes, Frank, we can talk, because we had to prove to them that we were serious. And we're very, very pleased with how things are going. And we're looking to see some positive results from those ongoing collaborations. But I would say, sir, the ultimate vision, for the agency, looking beyond the borders of Jefferson County and being the go-to authority, anything related to transportation and moving people effectively and efficiently.
Good. That would be great. Any other questions that anyone have?
No.
Yes, Counselor?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, very good. So let me just say, Mr. Martin, thank you for the presentation. I thought it was a great presentation. And we just look to see it being implemented, and I'd be interested to know the administration response to your meeting on tomorrow, and so that we can all be on one page as we try to grow this, the transit system, and to make it better. It certainly needs to be made better. I think the frequency is probably the most important aspect of what we all trying to do here. And I think, and once we address those issues, then we're going to have, and I would hope, greater persons taking advantage of the transit system we have here. But I do think that you ought to be the hub, the leader of that for the region, for many reasons, because you have the the access to federal funds and all, and the fact that we have buses up and running. We just need to create some new opportunities, and so, but this is good, and but I'll be interested to see maybe we can follow up with your meeting with the administration.
Absolutely, sir, because when you look at the infrastructure here, the Birmingham, Jefferson County area, you have the central station, state-of-the-art, very, very nice facility. You have the intermodal here, where our headquarters are, and we have Amtrak and Greyhound and Megabus coming into these facilities. And then you'll have the BRT coming along. So from an infrastructure standpoint, you're the envy of a lot of cities around the country that do not have what we have here, okay? The missing piece is, again, improving the frequencies to encourage and get more riders. And that's our goal. And we'll be coming back to you and giving you additional updates. We'll make sure that we also circle back after talking to the administration as well.
Okay. And so will part of your presentation tomorrow be budget?
We're not going to get that specific.
Okay.
It's been about 2 to 3 weeks before we get into any numbers.
Okay. And I would just respectfully request that, maybe you circle back with us so that we can understand, and while we deliberate, we have some understanding of what it's going to take for you all to be functionable.
Absolutely. Not a problem. We'll make sure that you get any and all information. And because at the end of the day, as we educate this committee and administration and all of our funding partners, because it all kind of comes together, it's all connected together. And we'll need a collective effort moving forward if there are any significant initiatives going forward to improve either the government or improve the funding. But it's not just the city of Birmingham, not just Jefferson County, it's not just Bessemer or Centerport and Homewood. It's everybody kind of coming together as a team. As a team.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And that's going to be key. And I know that it's a challenge when you got about 30-something more municipalities within Jefferson County, notwithstanding some of the adjacent counties. And so, but it's good that things are working, but they can always work a little better. And so I'm very interested in how we approach that. And let me ask you, has there been a feasibility study on the overall offerings of the transit system?
I'm not quite sure I fully understand your question. Feasibility study regarding the
Well, in terms of expansion, in terms of
this COA, I think is going to be the first of many studies that would need to be completed that will be able to capture, because this will be visionary. I can tell you right now, probably going to be some that says, Frank, no, there's no way that's going to happen, or it can't happen, whatever. And we're not asking for everything to happen immediately. It will take time. And the big elephant in the room, if you will, is the funding to support it.
right.
And how can we come up with a creative funding strategy in order to make sure that everyone understands what it takes to run the system, and then the public perception that BJCT is being responsible for the public dollars, that we're not overspending, we're not doing things over and above, but we are an efficient operation. And that's something that we have been working on, and we will continue to make sure that we educate the community as we move forward.
Okay. Very good. I think that's all we have on the agenda. Any old or new businesses? business? If not, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Been properly moved and second, ready for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and so ordered. Thank you all so much.